Hi, I'm Karen. We're here at Montavilla Sewing Center and we're talking about the Juki TL-18Q. In this video, we're going to talk about the accessories that come with your machine. So we have the power cord, of course, and the foot control. The foot control plugs in separately from the power cord. Now the foot control also has a thread cutter switch back here, and you can disable that switch by putting this little rubber piece on there so that when your heel pushes down on it, it won't accidentally cut your thread if you don't mean to cut your thread. As you get more practiced, you may decide, hey, I like that feature. So you take this thing back off, and there you go with your foot control. That's both makes the machine sew and cuts your thread when you want it to. Okay. Over here, we have the extension table, and this is going to give you a lot more room to sew in. On the back of the extension table, you have a place where you can store your knee lifter. The knee lifter goes right in there, and it makes it so you can raise and lower your presser foot by just moving your knee like that. To use the extension table, it's got these legs here that you put these out like that. 6 legs makes it plenty stable. And we put this right on here like that, and see this nice big area. So you can leave this on when you do your bobbin. So you just lift up this little door here, lift this little hatch, and you can reach in and take your bobbin out, just like that. I'm going to close this for now because I'm going to show you something about the bobbin a little bit later. On the front of your extension table, you have these marks here, this built-in ruler, inch marks as well as centimeter marks. Makes it really quick and easy if you want to measure a piece of ribbon or elastic or whatever. It's all right there for you. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other accessories that come with your machine. Of course, you have your bobbin case, and you have your instruction manual. It's in English, Spanish, and French. That's why it's so thick, but it's nicely illustrated. And inside we have, over here we have the different feet. This is your zipper foot for putting on zippers and piping. It's got a little thing in the back so you can adjust whichever side of the zipper you're sewing on. You tighten that back up when you're not using it. Okay, over here, and of course on your machine is your regular foot, the regular straight stitch foot right there. And of course we only stitch straight, but that's your standard sewing foot right there. And then here we have your 1/4 inch piecing foot. This has a guide on the side, so you'd run the edge of your fabric, raw edge of your fabric right here, and it's going to give you a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance, so nice and even. Here we have the compensating foot. Now the compensating foot is similar to the 1/4 inch foot, except you see how this is kind of rounded and flat on the bottom, and also springs a little bit. This is good for doing top stitching where you want a nice even 1/4 inch from the folded edge of your fabric, say like you're doing a collar or a cuff, or maybe a seam where you've pressed the seam allowance to one side. You just run that folded edge of your fabric right next to there, and it'll give you an even 1/4 inch distance. And then here we have the rolled hem foot. This makes a fine rolled hem. You don't have to pre-press your fabric. You just feed it right in there, and it rolls and stitches the fabric all in one step. And then you have bobbins. Your machine comes with 4 bobbins. One of them may be inside your machine in the bobbin case already, but it has 4 bobbins. You have machine oil. This is sewing machine oil. You want to make sure you always use only sewing machine oil in your machine, not other kinds of oil. It's meant specifically to maintain your sewing machine. And then you have a brush. That's to brush out lint. This is a spool cap. Now the idea of a spool cap is there are certain types of thread, and you can use a lot of different kinds of thread on this machine, but there's certain kinds of thread that kind of don't want to maybe feed quite as evenly. So you'd put that over here on top of your spool For a small spool, you'd put it on this way. If you had a larger, fatter spool, you'd turn it over and put it this way. And that helps keep the spool on the spool pin. That's the purpose of this here. And then we have extra needles, and extra needles are important for, well, if you break a needle, and actually needles get dull even if you don't break them. If you're starting to hear kind of more of a hammering or it's skipping stitches, it may be time to change your needle. Another good way to gauge how soon you should change your needle, let's say you had a bobbin full of thread, all the way full, and you've used up 3 or 4 of those. By the time you've used up 3 full bobbins of thread, that needle has gone through the fabric so many times that it's starting to get a little dull at the tip. You want to change your needle, not only for the quality of stitching, but also because a dull needle can actually cause damage to your fabric by not going cleanly through the fabric and actually damaging it. So you want to make sure you have a good needle in your machine. And then we have 2 screwdrivers. Now, the 2 screwdrivers, like this one here, nice and big, you can use this to get plenty of torque, but sometimes the small one will work just fine, or if you have an area here where the big screwdriver kind of might get in the way, the smaller screwdriver can work just fine for this. Or you could use the side of the screwdriver of the side of the T and get a little more torque that way. Now, this little part of the screwdriver here is for adjusting your bobbin case. There are 2 screws, one to hold this flat piece of metal on, and the second one, the more prominent one, is where you would adjust the tension on your bobbin. So that's what this little screwdriver here is for. Most of the time, for most standard sewing, you don't need to worry about that. You can actually adjust your tension up here with the upper tension, but sometimes you actually need to adjust it here on the bobbin case as well. So you've got the tool for that. Then we have the walking foot. Now, the walking foot is great for thick layers of fabric, like say you're sewing over quilting fleece and you've got your top layer and your backing. You want to keep all those nice and evenly feeding. That's what this is for here. This is also good if you're sewing like plaids or stripes and you want to keep them meeting nice and evenly along a seam. You don't want to have them shifting. This is a good tool to keep your layers even. This is a quilting guide. Now, this can be put on your machine over here. Either you can use either your regular foot with this, or you can use your walking foot with this, your even feed foot. Now, if you're using your walking foot, you'll need to use this extra screw. I believe, actually, you're probably going to need to use this extra screw whenever you're using this, because this has a little bit more distance between the head of the screw and where it attaches to the presser bar. So that's what this extra screw is for. Okay. Then we have the free motion quilting feet. Now, there are 3 of those. Free motion quilting is when you have something that looks like this here. Now, I just did this little design just for fun, just kind of experiment. And when you're doing free motion quilting, you're going to want to have your feed dogs down. You want to take off one of these, take off your regular foot, and then you want to put on one of these. Now, these 3 different feet here, I'll show you what they look like. This is an open toe foot, this is a closed toe foot, and this one's a little bit wider. This one's nice for if you want to do echo quilting. So you have a line of stitching and then you follow that line of stitching with the outside edge of your foot. So like you could do a heart and then another heart around this nice and evenly. That's what this one would be for. The difference between these 2 is basically they're the same. This is just an open toe one. where you don't have to feed your bottom thread through there or your top thread through here like you would for this one. The nice thing about this one is it's closed, so it's not going to get caught on anything. So it's kind of either or. I tend to prefer this one, just personally. So that is our basic accessories that come with this machine. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, it was helpful, give us a thumbs up in the area down below, and you can leave us comments or questions if you have any. We have other videos on this machine, so take a look at those. See you later. Bye.